Give me my theme music! What's up, Buffs Nation, and welcome into Buffs News Weekly Live. I'm your host, Russ Dornish, and welcome to this Sunday afternoon stream. After a week away on vacation, I am back ready to go. The good news is, and the bad news as well, is that not much happened this past week. No big news regarding the Buffs, but a lot of little things that did happen throughout the week that I want to discuss today. I want to take a look at the Shrine game and what happened there. What was the consensus as far as how did the CU players do? Also want to talk about, obviously, we are ramping up for the draft. Where do we think that Shedeur Sanders is going, should go, has the best opportunity to succeed, all of that. Also going to take a quick look at a little bit of recruiting as they have continued to offer a ton of players in the 2026 class and really setting themselves up for the upcoming recruiting season that's going to be taking place both in the spring and the summer. We've already got a couple of guys who have said that they are going to be looking to visit Colorado this spring. So we're going to take a look at those guys. And then I want to finish off the show today and kind of do a preview / a who to watch for the Buffs this spring during spring practices, as they are just around the corner. We're a little over a month away from spring practices officially starting. Of course, spring workouts, winter workouts, whatever you want to call them, are currently underway for the Buffs, and we're already getting to see a little bit of what's going on with the team this past week, but a lot coming up with the draft to figure out where all of our guys will end up for next year, recruiting season, and then, of course, the spring season is up and coming, and we did get an announcement this past week for the spring game for Colorado and when that'll be held, the Black and Gold Day. So for those of you interested and wondering about that, that got announced this past week as well. Let's go ahead and jump into the chat and see what you guys are up to and how it's hanging since last week. Welcome in, Shirley. Appreciate to have you back on a Sunday stream. Thank you, Trey. Welcome back. Felt like missed me a lot. Well, I'm glad to hear that you guys missed me and weren't just, moved on and could care less. Good afternoon, Adrienne, Buddy in, and Jones23 also in on today's stream. Appreciate you guys dropping by, hanging out. Again, we're going to be talking about a few different things throughout the stream. As always, I want to hear from you guys. I want to interact with you guys in the chat. So feel free to drop those comments in there. And before we get started, of course, make sure you hit that like when you're in this video, as well as the subscribers. We grew quite a bit over the last week without any content. We are almost halfway point from 4,000 to 5,000 subscribers at 4,400 right now. So we are slowly making our way up the charts, but appreciate all of the growth, all of the support over the last week as well without any content coming out. Definitely enjoyed the vacation, ready to get back into it and talk Buffs. I also will have some interesting personal life information and news coming out here in the next several weeks that will affect this channel in a very positive way, but I cannot detail that until later for some different reasons, which again, I will tell you guys once I'm able to, but just a little bit of a tease for what could potentially be coming here in the next couple weeks, couple months as it pertains to the channel. So let's go ahead and jump into what we've got going on. TK, how's it going? King John, appreciate you dropping by. Let's take a look at the big news. Of course, this past week was the East-West Shrine game where we had all of our receivers there. Jimmy Horn, Will Shepard, LeJohntay Wester were there in attendance. Cameron Silman-Craig. Of course, Shedeur Sanders attended, did not participate at all, which we did kind of go through and debate several weeks ago whether or not he would participate. My thoughts were if he accepted the invite, he was going to at least participate in the practices to help his teammates out. Ended up not dressing whatsoever during the week or the game. Also, Shedeur Sanders was there, did pretty well in the actual game. As far as the receivers go, though, it was a show that they put on. Will Shepard had a number of big catches. LeJohntay Wester was able to show and utilize his agility, his shiftiness to be able to get open constantly and had everybody buzzing about what kind of player he could be at the next level. And even Jimmy Horn Jr. had a very good showing. So all three of the receivers had very, very good weeks, standing out from everything you heard. Didn't do anything in the actual game. Game didn't look so hot overall, but the practices and the ability for them to just show out for scouts definitely helped their draft stock. And of course, it helped LeJohntay Wester big time as he finally got that invite to the Combine. So we will see LeJohntay Wester at the Combine, which will be massive for him as he tries to improve his draft stock. I'm thinking, honestly, right now, all three receivers could be draftable receivers at some point in the draft, with probably LeJohntay Wester being the most highly coveted and sought after as far as being a higher draft pick. I'm not talking about first, second, third round. More of maybe a mid-round pick for him and maybe Jimmy Horn Jr. and Will Shepard being towards the bottom of the draft, but very draftable players. Cameron Silman-Craig should be a draftable player. Of course, Travis and Shedeur. We could easily see 6 drafted Buffs, which I haven't really looked at the history in a while for the Buffs to see how many players was the record for this team when it came to draftable players. Probably would have to go back to the 90s when that would have occurred, but something to think about as we move into the draft and what that means, not only for just our team and those players, but for recruiting, as the history and ability to say, hey, you come to the Buffs, you are going to have a chance to be drafted is always a good thing to add to your recruiting war chest, so to speak. So something to look out for. Overall, good week for all of the Buffs players who went to the Shrine game. So really great stuff for them, and hopefully, again, it'll help their draft stock improve. Now, the other big thing, of course, from the week was Shedeur Sanders and all of the meetings that he was able to have with a number of NFL teams, with the number one team that's been really going hard after him, finding out all the information they can, seemingly talking about him on a regular basis and what he will be able to do for them. That is the New York Giants. So when it comes to where Shedeur Sanders should be drafted, if I'm being honest, I think that the Giants are going to be the best case scenario for Shedeur. I think, one, the New York market obviously is going to help his brand. 2, I think they have a lot of pieces in place that can help him right away. Malik Neighbors being on that team, that's a great target for him to have. I think when you look at the top of the draft and the teams that are going to be going after a quarterback, whether that's Tennessee, Cleveland, of course, New York Giants, the Raiders, those teams in the top 10 picks are all going to be looking potentially at quarterback. And if I'm being honest, between all of those teams, I think out of those 4, New York probably has the best scenario, best place for a quarterback to go and play. Cleveland is Cleveland. They're always going to be Cleveland, always going to have problems. They're just a quarterback killer. Tennessee has had so many issues over the years and don't have enough pieces really around to build. I mean, if Derrick Henry were still there, that'd be one thing, but he's not. And so you got to question whether or not that's going to be a good location. The other teams at the top, of course, Jacksonville, not going to go after a quarterback. So in New England, I don't think are going to go after a quarterback. I think they're fine with their current young quarterback. So when it's looking at those spots, if I'm being honest, I think New York is going to be Shedeur's best landing spot. And everything says that they both want each other. The question will be is, do Tennessee or Cleveland take Shedeur? Or do one of them go after Cam Ward and one of them goes after another player entirely? I will say this. If Shedeur Sanders is available when the Giants pick, he will be their pick. I guarantee that. The rest of it is kind of up in the air of who would get picked, when they would get picked, where is Travis going to go? All of that is going to be kind of a question we're going to have to wait and see because we're really not going to know. But if Shedeur Sanders is available for the Giants, I believe that is going to be their pick. Be interested to see what you guys think as well when it comes to these picks. I can't say anything about the news because there's just a lot of legalese and other issues going on that doesn't necessarily have to do with me. It's family stuff. So I literally cannot tell you guys because it can't be public knowledge until later. When it happens, I will explain to you guys why I couldn't say what's going on. Trust me, it's not this like massive change to the channel or anything like that. It's just something cool personally that I'm going to be excited to share with you guys here shortly that I think will help and expand the channel in the coming years, so to speak. So something to think about. I know. It's just us. Unfortunately, YouTube is the internet, and if some people that we know personally were to watch these videos, I would get in trouble for sharing that information. So, seems like the West quarterbacks froze out Wester and Shep. They just didn't do anything. I mean, it was bad. Sources came out Saturday. Commanders were talking with LeJohntay. That would be a good place for him to go. Jaden Daniels and LeJohntay Wester. That'd be a nice combo. I'd like that for sure. I would. CU players spoke to numerous scouts at the Shrine Bowl. Yep, the Commanders stuck out. It's one of the media people at the Shrine, Simply Jen's kitchen. Oh, yes, I've seen the pick with the Commanders behind him. I hope BJ Green and Block Bully get drafted as well. I think they can too. So we could see upwards of 8. We have 8 draftable players, if we're being honest, on this roster. And so, that's what I think. As far as the Shedeur Sanders stuff goes, let me know what you guys think. In regards to where Shedeur should be drafted. If you're watching this video later on, comment down below. Let me know where you guys think he should be drafted or where the best possible location for him to be drafted in could be, because that'll be a big thing to watch as we come through the draft season. Again, I'll be covering all that. We'll be going over the combine results, what's going on, what the rumors are out there, any changes or things like that can happen. Last thing that I really want to talk about, of course, that happened over the week, which is a really easy one, guys. It's the fact that Coach Prime's not going anywhere, okay? The Raiders have a coach. The Cowboys have a coach. All of that smoke, so to speak, ended up being absolutely nothing. And so, when we talk about that, when we say that, it wasn't going to happen, guys. We knew it as Buff fans that Coach Prime wasn't going anywhere for now. Okay. Could he go somewhere in the future? Absolutely. Could he go to the NFL in the future? Yes. I don't think he goes anywhere else in college football, though. I think that one can be completely just squashed and never talked about. But the fact is, every year, I think he will be one of the conversating pieces when it comes to the NFL and jobs out there, especially if a team that has either Travis or Shedeur or Shiloh loses a head coach. You know exactly what's going to happen when it comes to those jobs. And it's kind of funny because those talks are already kind of starting. I love that that's already happening of like, Tennessee could be interested in Coach Prime in the next couple of years as their coach. It's going to happen every year, guys. We got to get used to it. I hope that we get an extension signed sometime during the spring that leads maybe to these conversations kind of being put off for a while. I don't know. I know that a lot of you in the comments are going to say that anytime these conversations happen, it's going to hurt recruiting. The recruits are getting the information that they need to get, okay? They're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. We're not getting it secondhand via, reports and media outlets and things like that. So I'm going to trust that a kid is going to hear that and understand and have that real conversation with Coach Prime and know that what he is saying is accurate and true, and he's not just going to lie to a kid just to get him to come. That's not who Coach Prime is. He's proven that time and time again. And so, again, that happened over the last week or so that we officially know that for sure Coach Prime is not going anywhere for now. Outside of that, let's see what you guys have to say in regards to this. Saints don't have a coach. Yeah, he's not going to the Saints. He's not going to the Saints, guys. Anything is possible. Most people know Prime isn't going anywhere. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a great look at it. Okay. That is a great look that, nothing is going to be impossible. There's a chance he could leave at any time. That's absolutely correct. But we all know deep down that right now he's staying put. He's going to stay put. There's no reason to go anywhere else. He has everything that he needs here. He's getting all of the resources that he needs here. He's getting everything that he's asking for within reason. Obviously we can't just give him a blank check of money because the money has to actually be there for that to happen. So we're working towards that. We'll see what happens. It's, something that we'll find out here upcoming. Next up, and the next thing I wanted to talk about and discuss is going to be the big recruiting updates, guys. So a number of more offers given out to 2026, 2027 players, a couple of players to keep an eye on. One player that I've been kind of eyeing and looking at that's starting to pick up steam for Colorado for the 2026 class is Jamichael Garrett, linebacker, 2026, 4-star player. Sounds like, based on the reports by Adam Munster Tiger and the Buff Stampede, that he will be taking a visit sometime this spring. Of course, we've had the announcement for the spring game in April. That will most likely bring with it a lot of recruits coming on campus. As we know, that is a big visit weekend for Colorado and their recruits. And they're starting to line up the 2026 recruits. So that's a name to keep an eye out. He is, I believe, already committed to Auburn, but is interested in opening up his recruitment a little bit more and going to visit some more schools. He's been kind of locked in there for quite a while. So that's going to open up a little bit more. We're going to see a lot more players not only getting offered, but coming on visits. We're about to enter visit season, guys, when it comes to high school recruiting. And there's going to be a lot of stuff and moving parts going on with this team when it comes to the spring season. Now, as far as the transfer portal, of course, we have that coming up soon, guys. The second transfer portal will be coming here in the spring. Before you know it, the exact dates of the spring transfer portal, just so you guys know, we can keep that up on tabs and really understand when that is going to happen. So it looks like the spring portal will be in April. And again, only 10 days long. That is a big change from last year. So it'll open on April 16th and shut down on April 25th. Okay. So we got a couple months or so to go until that portal opens up. That'll be what we want to take a look at. Of course, the three guys that I talked about last week, the Notre Dame guys have all committed, including one who committed today to Nebraska, unfortunately. The inside O-lineman committing to Nebraska. So all three of those Notre Dame guys hit the portal and left the portal very quickly, did not stay in there very long. Of course, the one guy with the no contact, he ended up at Tennessee. You got the lineman today ending up at Nebraska, unfortunately. So yeah, none of them on Colorado's radar after all, at least from what we've heard and seen, which is unfortunate. We'll have to see what happens with the spring portal coming up and what may change as far as the team goes, because I'm sure we'll have some players leave as well. Okay. Outside of the transfer portal and recruits, let's see what you guys say. Will Bucky follow Shedeur and cover the NFL? Do you think an NFL team would be on board with that? Okay, so a couple things with that. Yes, I think he's going to cover a little bit Shedeur. He's going to go back and forth. He's already talked about that. The other problem, though, is I think it has to do with your second comment, which is the NFL does have a lot more rules. Teams are going to have a lot more rules when it comes to the access that they're going to give to Bucky. So I think he's still going to be much more successful with Colorado content. He's going to be able to cover more of Colorado than he would at the NFL. He's still going to cover Shedeur when it comes to his road to the NFL, probably workouts, things like that probably happen away from the team. But when it comes to actually in stuff like meetings, practice, all of that, I have a feeling they're not going to give him very much access. Unless the regular media gets access, unless the fans have access already. So, those open practices, those things, yeah, I'm sure Bucky will be there filming those. But other than that, he's not going to just get open access to Shedeur like he does in college and the Buffs. So good question. I appreciate that question, but that's what we're going to kind of see when it comes to what is being covered. Yeah, Bucky said he'll get an apartment wherever Shedeur goes and do the CU stuff as well. He's going to be busy. Right tackle is definitely our number one focus when we get to that spring portal. It better be the number one focus. Absolutely the number one focus when it comes to this team. Okay, outside of the recruiting updates, again, not much happening this week, which is good and bad. Obviously good because I didn't really miss any breaking news. Bad because there's not much to talk about right now. It's kind of a slow, dead period when it comes to news for the Buffs and what can be covered. Outside of that, I did want to talk about as we head into spring. What are we looking for? What are you looking for? If you're watching this later on, comment down below. Let me know. Who is the most exciting thing that you want to watch when it comes to spring? What are the position battles you want to see? Who are the players that you think are going to stand out the most? Who is a player that might disappoint? I would love to hear that from you guys. For me, what obviously the biggest one and the easiest answer is going to be the quarterback battle between Caden Salter and Julian Lewis to see who has the edge going into summer workouts, going into training camp next year? Who will have the leg up when it comes to the quarterback room? I think going into spring, the leg up is going to go to Caden Salter because of his experience. Okay, and obviously Julian Lewis coming off an injury, finally throwing this week. I did love seeing that, seeing him throwing the ball around, finally being back on the field, throwing the pigskin. That's good news going into our spring practices. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see the content when it comes to the quarterback battles. I hope we get a lot of content when it comes to that. A lot of the throws, a lot of the plays, a lot of the playmaking abilities that happen. We need to see that. It is going to be gold content for YouTube. Outside of the quarterback battle, I am very excited about the wide receiver battle that we're going to see and have. Because, hey, there are a lot of very good, talented wide receivers on this team. There are only so many spots on the field for each of those receivers, okay? We could say right off the bat who we think are going to start, but it's going to actually come down to who performs on the practice field, who's making the plays, who's showing up, who's putting in the work. And my guess is that somebody or a couple of people are probably going to leave from that wide receiver room if it starts to become clear that they are not going to be a big aspect to the wide receiver room. They're down far on the depth chart. It's not looking good for them. They might book it. Now, the easy thing to say when it comes to the receivers, Omarion Miller, he has to be the number one guy. Okay, it's his for the taking. It's his chance to take over that room and dominate and become the receiver we know he can be. We've seen it. We've seen the flashes of it. The USC game his freshman year, the Kansas State game last year until they hurt him. Omarion Miller has a chance to be one of the top receivers in the country this upcoming season if he can perform to his ability. Okay. Outside of that, a lot of different things are going to be moving. Obviously, Joseph Williams, the transfer wide receiver, is going to play a big part, and I think he's going to be a part of it. Outside of Joseph Williams, you've obviously got Terrell Timmons, Draylon Miller. Then, of course, you've got the return of Cam Michael. We've also got the freshmen, which we cannot discount or say that they're not going to be a big part of this program going forward this upcoming year in the Texas trifecta of Adrian Wilson, Quinnell Farrakhan, and of course, Quentin Gibson. Happy to say that On3 has bumped Quentin Gibson to a 4-star receiver. Finally, not a 5-star and not rated high enough for his state, considering he's the best receiver in Texas and he's like the 30th best on all the recruiting sites in Texas. Kind of embarrassing, but they at least bumped him to 4-star. He's 4-star on 3 of the 4 major recruiting websites. So that is good to see from Quentin Gibson. It's rightly deserved, probably more. The other sad part that we saw, by the way, going back to the quarterback battles was the drop again of Julian Lewis to being like the 15th ranked quarterback by On3. Really? The 15th ranked quarterback. What did he do to deserve the 15th ranked quarterback? Like, he had a good playoff performance and had a broken hand doing it. That's just shocking to me. It's shocking to me, that one. That he's not on any of those lists and he's not even a top 10 in the recruiting class for On3 24/7. Kind of embarrassing for those sites, if we're being honest. He can go out there and perform and be an unbelievable quarterback next year. Those sites are just going to continue to look like absolute jokes, even though they already do. So that's something to think about when it comes to what those have going on. Part of me wants some of the team's practices to be kept in the hush, because as much as they may not know, dudes are watching and scouting us. Agreed. I think we will keep a lot under wraps. I think we will, for sure. If the O-line sucks, they have to use Michael and Quentin Gibson's speed. I think they'll use them anyway. I mean, we're going to run the ball a lot, guys. We're going to have a lot of playmaking ability with Caden Salter back there, with the speed that is Draylon Miller, Cam Michael, Quentin Gibson, Quinnell Farrakhan. You got a lot of options, and hopefully we see some creative play calling when it comes to just having different looks that can catch teams off guard and use the playmaking ability of our players. That is our biggest strength on offense, is the playmakers. So hopefully we do get to see that, but it's a smart play. It'll be a smart play. Hold on one second. Okay. On3, 100% garbage. None of it makes sense. That was a joke. He was better than a lot of folks on that list. That list was absolutely embarrassing for them. For them to rake some of those guys, like, I understand the top half, okay? Not saying that I don't believe that Julian Lewis isn't better than most of those guys, Husan Longstreet, Keelan, all those guys at the top. I think Julian Lewis is just as good as them. But the guys that they put ahead of Julian Lewis on their top 15 for the class are absolutely hilarious. Like, hilarious and absolutely a joke. Like, that tells you right there their biasness towards Julian Lewis and what he ended up doing. He's still at USC. He's a top 5 quarterback in the class. Guaranteed. Who do you think will be the best punt and kick returner? Is Gibson a returner also? I don't remember if Gibson was a returner in high school at all. I don't think he returns the ball for us next year. As far as who does, I mean, maybe we see Draylon Miller take a stab at it. Cam Michael, I would love for them to get him going to do it using his speed. We'll have to see who starts out in the spring season at that spot, because it's going to be something to watch. Speaking of battles, that's going to be something to watch, is going to be the kick return and punt return, to see who's going to be our guy now that Jimmy Horn, LaJohntay Wester are no longer going to be a part of the equation for returning the ball. Be very interesting to see who we might go with for that. Love that question. That Mississippi State and Mizzou quarterback are not better than Juju. That list is a straight joke. Yeah, the Mizzou one was the one I was most like, are you serious? You guys have him above Julian Lewis now? Julian Lewis was your number 1 quarterback of the 2026 class. Just because he reclassified to 2025, he's going to drop that far? What does that say about the 2026 class? Are the quarterbacks that bad compared to the 2025 class? It makes no sense to me. No sense whatsoever. Absolutely a joke when it comes to that. Okay, back to the question at hand, of course, is who to watch. Who do you guys think are your players to watch this spring? Guys that you're excited to see on the field. Jaheim Otis, I'd love to see the one-on-ones that they're going to have between that defensive line and offensive line. The problem that we get when it comes to those one-on-ones is going to always be, what is it actually saying? If the defense dominates the O-line, is it because the defensive line is good, or is it because the O-line is bad, and vice versa? What does that look like going up against one another? I have no idea. I really don't. Until we actually see it unfold and see what can happen, we won't know. But that's going to be an interesting one. The offensive line has a lot of players, but do we have a lot of starters? We've added a lot, but did we add actual guys who are going to have some sort of, I guess, part to play in the offensive line becoming a better unit overall? We won't know. I think once the practices start too, it'll let coaches know, okay, which position do we have to go after in the transfer portal? You know, is Cardi Smith going to come in and look absolutely unbelievable at right tackle? And so they just like, he's going to be the right tackle and that's the way it's going to be. I don't know right now. We won't know until that starts to happen. Going to be an interesting thing to watch for sure. So receivers, linemen, quarterback battle. I think those are the three that we're going to kind of focus on as spring practices occur and happen here in the next couple of weeks or so. Okay, let's get your guys' thoughts. Appreciate you, Shiny King. Welcome back in. Appreciate you dropping off here. Think if we get a pop-off 1-year Salter, then Juju, he's going to come with growing pains unless he pulls a Sam Levitt. I want Staub to thrive as well. I mean, like I said, if I'm being honest, I think Salter has the leg up right now, but that can absolutely change if Julian Lewis does his thing. Really, really, that's the case. We've got a full true-on quarterback battle between Caden Salter and Julian Lewis. Staub, I don't know. We know what we have in him already. The team knows. I don't know if he's going to necessarily challenge either of those two. Right now, I think he's sticking around as insurance. And once the spring kind of dust settles, we'll see if he's still on this team or if he moves on elsewhere to try and get some more playing time. Going to be very interesting to watch that unfold. Really, really interesting. Okay, guys, outside of that, I'm not going to go too long today. Like I said, there's not that much to talk about. But yeah, Staub would have to transfer if he wants to see the field. He really does. I almost like, again, I don't have anything against the guy. I'm not saying I want him gone because I don't like him. I want him gone because I want to see what he can do at another college. I want to see what he can do if he's given the reins as a starter at a most likely lower level school. Go to a top FCS school, go to a lower G5, G4 school. See what you can do there. I really do want to see Staub get a chance to show that. I just don't think it's going to be here at Colorado. I really don't. You don't bring in Caden Salter. You don't bring in Julian Lewis unless those two are really going to compete for that job. Absolutely. You are 100% accurate and right when it comes to that. Okay, guys. Again, make sure while you guys are here, hit that like, hit those subscribes. We're getting up there. We're almost to 5,000. I appreciate all of that. We're going to be covering all of the breaking news, so make sure you guys have that bell notification turned on so that when we do have breaking news, I can go live and you guys can join me live to discuss it. Other than that, I'll be around all week. We'll be covering different things as they roll out, looking ahead to the combine, looking ahead to the draft. Of course, the practices and workouts, what we're starting to see. Omarion Miller starting to step up as a leader on this team so far already. Cam Michael starting to call out and be excited about getting back on the field. Quentin Gibson talking about that the stars don't matter because he's about to show everybody that they made a mistake. Absolutely love to hear those things from the practice videos. Jordan Seaton obviously taking on a much bigger role when it comes to this team. I think that, this is Julian Lewis's and Jordan Seaton's team. I think those guys are going to be the ones to lead this team for the next couple of years, and they're going to be big parts to our success. So it's going to be something to watch for, something to really look forward to as we move forward. And again, we'll be covering it all right along with you. But again, appreciate you coming, hanging out with me on my first video back. Fortunately, not a ton to talk about, so we're not going to keep you here for an hour or two just talking about nothing. So with that being said, I'm going to call it a day. Appreciate you guys so much for joining in or watching this later on. Make sure, again, you're subscribed. Share this with all the Buffs fans that you know as we continue to grow going into next season and the road to 10,000 subscribers. Until next time, for Buffs News Weekly Live, I'm your host, Russ Dornish. Go Buffs!